So we can call the meeting to order. All right. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. All right. Welcome, Roger. Welcome back, Cotter. Oh, I'm probably dating myself with that comment. Anybody know what Cotter is? Anyway, doesn't matter.
I missed that one, but
yeah,
good to see you guys.
It's like if you're 60 years old, you'd get that joke.
You're over 60.
Diane gets it. Anyways, good to see you back, Roger. You want to just, for those who don't know you, want to introduce yourself and give a little background?
Sure. My name is Roger Court. I'm a citizen volunteer with the Accessibility Committee. I previously was on the committee for 6 years between 2012 and 2018. Excited to be back on and hear what you guys have been up to.
We're excited to have you. Get ready to work. It's a little forewarning. Good. Well, thank you so much. And we have delegates today. We have Dave St. Louis and Quinn Mellett. And do you like St. Louis or St. Louis? David?
Yeah, St. Louis works.
Okay, good. Good. All right. So welcome. I don't know how much you have pre-prepared for this meeting. What would you like to do? Would you do you have preparation, or do you want us to address some of the things that we want to talk about? It's up to you.
Yeah, from our end, Quinn and I are going to tag team the email we got from Tatiana Default. And we'll talk about the attachment, which is an audit of the North Shore bathroom and some pathways. And so we'll go through both of those documents, and then we are open for questions.
So there's some that may not know or seen that document, because I was the one who did that one. But it's all kind of the experience what people put together to form that document. And so go ahead. We'd like to hear what you.
Okay, well, Quinn's going to start with the issues of Redford Crescent.
Yeah, they would. So Redford Crescent, when they redid St. Vincent Street, they put a slate path just into the park, and then you would ask to bring that pathway or trail right to the play structure. So we haven't done that at this point because we're putting a new play structure in there in 2023. That's when it's slated for. We're not exactly sure where the location of it is going to be. So when we do know that location, we'll extend the accessible path from St. Vincent Street or from the Redford side right to the play structure. That's what it's not trying to do at this point.
And what's the pathway going to be made of?
Asphalt. We do them all with asphalt to the play structure. And either have accessible play flooring or engineered.
Hey, could you come a little closer to the mic? Because I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not.
Yeah, so it'll be asphalt play. It'll be an asphalt path right to the play structure. Right. And then we, depending on what the flooring is for that structure, some of them are engineered wood chips, and the others are we do put in what we call community parks or destination parks. We put the accessible rubber, like Ann Hathaway and Upper Queens.
And the playground equipment will be is that going to come through us again?
Oh, yeah, that'll come. Like, we're doing Maple Park. We did Optimus this year. We're doing Maple Park in 2022, which will go through you, and then in 2023 is when Redford Park was slated. So that'll also come.
While we're on the subject of playground equipment, I just want to ask questions because it's come up before, and we have looked at playground equipment. And first of all, I don't know, there's been I don't know if you heard of the AODA Alliance. They had a newsletter out, and they had a document that went to the Ontario government asking why the municipalities have to choose equipment when it's already been done through the Ontario with the regulations and the committee that they have in Ontario, how to determine what playground committee equipment is good.
Yep.
And second of all, is that sometimes we recommend playground equipment and it's overruled and we don't get a response why. So how are we going to decide why? So
well,
maybe that's another thought.
Yeah, the answer to your second question, we do take accessibility is one part of about six different things we take into consideration when we order a playground structure. So the last one, usually because accessibility is such has a high point value, usually it is your number one recommendation that we take. The last one that we did at Optimus Park, you guys, out of the seven people that submitted a proposal, you had done two, you did two formats with the, only advised us on two. So we figured those were your number 1 and 2 choices. And then, so giving them those points, it ended up being not your second choice that won that bid, just because of, I think it was under the warranty. We had a lot better warranty on that unit than we did on the first choice. We have about 6 or 7, this is right from the AODA. We have about 6 or 7 criteria that we pick from. And we rate them with points. And I mean, the accessibility piece is very high, but in this point, just because of the second, that was our choice.
So again, I don't mean to dominate this, but because I've looked at playground equipment, I've asked parents and I've asked some people how do they think of it, because some of the ones that we don't recommend is the ones with ramps. And there's a reason for that, because a lot of the ramps, they got a huge amount of equipment. Somebody's got some background noise, so maybe you can mute while you're not speaking. So for instance, at the end of Abraham Drive, they put a big structure. It's ramped and it's not being maintained and it's not used. And that can be, I'm wondering, like,
yeah.
For instance, I have my granddaughter there and she's playing and there's nothing for her to do.
Yeah, and I agree. That's what we call play value. That's one of our highest when we look at how we pick these play structures, it's play value, right? So that's a bit that goes very high point. When you put a ramp in, and we do put ramps in some areas. Just the ramps take up a lot of the money for the cost of the play structure, so you get less play value in other areas, right?
Right.
That's why we look at transfer stations and other ways of looking at the accessibility piece. I mean, we want ramps on some of them, but not all of them. So that's why we look at other forms of accessibility.
And often we don't recommend the ramp ones.
No, I know that. I know you guys don't.
But I see them popping up all over the place.
We did a ramp on this one because like I said, it was your first or second choice, and it did really well with the warranty. And there was lots of play value with it. And we try to put ramps where we spend a little more money is at like what I call these destination parks, like Anne Hathaway and Upper Queens, where we have a little more money so we can put a lot more play value around the ramp and also include the ramp. Where the community parks, sometimes we put ramps, sometimes we don't, depending on your recommendation.
We don't recommend a ramp because it just, for instance, one at the playground, a kid in a wheelchair can't even get to the ramp anyways because there's a huge gravel part between. So,
well, no, what we do is we put the ramp right to so we'll bring some of them, you're right, some of the older ones that we're replacing now, we don't have those asphalt walkways to them yet, right?
Yeah.
Every time we replace a play structure, we put those asphalt pathways right to either the ramp or to the transfer station.
Okay. All right. You can carry on. Unless anybody else has any questions. We're good. Okay, carry on. Thanks.
So the second part of the email was about recreation facilities and the report that was done in terms of audits, and we certainly have that document. And generally it includes a lot of capital, And so we will include as we can in our capital budget the suggestions that you make in terms of your audits. And I will tell you that National Stadium, I think, is one of the first locations that you visited, and there were lots of issues. And luckily, there's been a grant out, and that we will be applying for that grant to make National Stadium more accessible and certainly update the facilities. And we're going to hire an engineer to do that work or to give us engineering documents, and we will certainly run those by this committee. It talks about Lower Queens and should that area be completed. We have no issue with that. And the contact used to be Jim Bryson, but now it's Mark Hackett. And we can move through Mark to assist with doing those audits. The next point was about the coordinator. Currently, we don't have a coordinator, but here that's in the works. And we would prefer that we waited for the new coordinator, as they're the ones that I believe filling out the reports.
Okay. So as far as the North Shore, that has the washroom been redone, fixed? Every time I go to check, it's locked. Or somebody's in it, so I don't want to bang on the door.
You're talking about North Shore?
Yeah.
No, that work hasn't been done. Again, as I can point out to the committee, that some of these issues that you pointed out, and all good, I'll take capital dollars to get the work done.
It was just a fix from, because you did do the North Shore washroom, and I just wondered if it was just the minor adjustments, but it was major if you're in a wheelchair.
Yeah, I realize that. It's just that we can relook at it, but it takes capital money to get that work done, and we certainly understand. So onto that report, we talk about the North Shore washroom. I can have somebody go down and take another look, but if we're moving a sink, I'm not sure how easy that could be, but not an expert. So the next one, it talks about the rail trail boardwalk system, and I'll let Quinn run through that.
Yeah, so we're talking about the rail for everyone that's not familiar with it. It's the railway right behind the Gallery Stratford that runs from Confederation Park over to the Arboretum on Delamere Street. And at that, presently there's a wooden rail walk, or a walk that was built there probably about 25 years ago. And the boards are starting. We replaced a bunch of the boards this year, but we know next year there's going to be a lot more boards to replace. So what we've decided to do is we're going to remove that the rotting boards, and we're going to make that into a hardened stone dust pathway right across from Confederation Park to behind the gallery to the Arboretum. So we'll have it heavy stone dust, kind of like basically like the North Shore.
That's good. Great.
So the next one is the pathway along Lakeside Drive and the difficulty to maneuver because of the overhanging bumpers.
So what we've decided to do there, and we did notice this actually after it was put in, when they put that in, they probably shouldn't have had that right to the curb. But there's room there to extend the pathway over. So we'll extend it or widen it, just so that even if cars are parked right up to the curb and their bumpers are over the curb, there's going to be lots of room to get by there. Accessibility wise, we'll widen that path along that parking space.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, because wasn't a bollard going to be considered?
We thought of that. But it's more of a snow plowing issue. So what we'll do, we were thinking of putting parking bumpers in there just to stop them from driving up that far. But just for the snow plowing issue, I think what we'll do is widen the path over, and then there'll be lots of room to get by there.
Yeah, because a big concern was the tree. Is that?
Well, in the spot that I was looking at, it's from the corner of that rock right to the bridge.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it right from the corner of that rock right across to the bridge and find it out.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I was thinking of the parking spot across. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be a big improvement. Thanks, guys. That's perfect. Probably Dan's dealing with that parking spot. So
I think, Dan, any of those curb cuts and paintings on in the parking lots, I think Dan will be dealing with a lot of those.
okay. So there was supposedly, going back to the recreation report, there's a couple more that need to be done, right? Are we going to be, you want us to do it? I mean, I know this pandemic was the issue, and I understand that. So does that hold you from being able to complete it and send us back your feedback? Because feedback would be nice.
On this whole community services piece?
On the recreation facilities, I guess it would be our preference to do those with accessibility coordinator, as that was the method that was used before.
Yeah.
And, I can check on the status, but I'm assuming that we're going to fill that position, whether it's part-time or full-time. And it would help if we had the assistance of them to follow through with, I mean, how the report would give that person some experience with working with those audits. And as our facility manager is not familiar with that, and it would be a great partnership to have that done together.
Did you say that you're going to hire someone for?
That's my understanding, that we're going to look at hiring somebody either part-time or full-time.
To be accessible.
We shared that job with the county.
Right. So any news on that, Tatiana, or did you familiar with that one? No. Okay.
No, don't know.
That's the first I've heard that. So, okay.
All right. If you move on past some public works issues, you look at the last page, and it looks the field stone that was put in that's not accessible. Quinn can follow up with that.
So the very last page, it has that what we call turf stone. Now the reason that was put in there, it wasn't really for why. It was the sidewalk plow doesn't fit through the gates. You see the front gates at Upper Queen's Park. So instead of crossing the grass, Public Works put in that turf stone, just so that instead of digging it up every time they came across, they went across that and then went the other way. And we end up hand shoveling the rest of it because they can't get through there. So I'm not sure if they would want a curb cuts there anyway. I don't think really that was basically what it was for, but we can look at that.
The difficulty is, and for those who didn't see the report, is coming from Lower Queen's Park to Upper Queen's Park. If you take the trail up, you have to go all the way around basically, and there's directional issues. So if you don't go left when you reach that circular snake there at the top of the hill, you are going all the way around, and also getting into very dangerous parking situation. So I know this is between Dan and you. So if you could explain something about that, because it's really difficult to get to the park from a wheelchair.
Maybe what we could do is, when you do take a right at the top of the hill, and then there's the parking lot across the street behind the band shell, and the
oh yeah.
So, but you'd still have to cross the street there, and then there is an accessible movement to the park, to the play structure from there. That's actually how we originally put that play structure in. It was accessible from the washroom and from the parking lot at the back of the band shell. That's how it was originally set up.
Yeah, it's kind of sketchy way, but I seen a person using a stroller, boosting or carrying their strollers on both sides at the back end, where you're talking about lifting up the stroller to get over top and then going down the hill, which I was terrified. I was going to scream, stop it. I actually took a picture of it. And then I seen on the other side, from the Romeo section, before I seen people pick up a stroller and all their equipment to get over the curb, because there's no real direct route anywhere if you're on the sidewalk on the south end of
so if you're on the south, so if you're behind the band shell, right? Is that what you're talking about?
That's the north. Right. So I understand.
North side, the north side of the band. So if you're walking that sidewalk basically at the top of Lower Queens. You're moving along that sidewalk. So getting from there to the play structure you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both sides actually. It's a route, but it's kind of a.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of a long route.
Yeah, it's not really that great. And if you're on the south side, you have to go to Colbert Street to get to the other side in order to get around, and you still can't get to the park unless you go all the way to the railroad bridge where there eventually is even the Romeo.
You could cut across at the festival, right? So once you get up to the festival, and then there's a sidewalk there that comes.
But then you're running into traffic and parking because all the parking spots are there.
Yeah.
And it's a blind spot. If you're in a wheelchair, you're shorter, so you don't know as much. Yep. It's a lot. And
I know what you're saying. So you're trying to get a spot from there. Yeah. It's all a hill. It's all uphill there. I think that's probably why we came in the other side.
Maybe we can take a run through physically and actually do it.
Yep.
You can see what I mean.
Yep, I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. It'd be good to take a run through though.
Yep.
Yeah, so we can schedule that sometime. That's good. Yes, Judy. Oh, you're on mute, Judy.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
Were the washrooms, are the doors automatic now up there on the north side?
No, they're not. Not yet. It's on our list.
Okay.
Do you know any estimate of what? I know you saw the recommendation. You probably went, "Oh no, what's he doing to me?" What kind of costs we're looking at for something this major? Because it's great for tourists. I tell you, for tourists with accessibility issues, it's terrible right now. But I tell you, tourists will come there. I mean, that's the whole purpose, right? And tourists speak to each other, and accessibility is a big thing in the United States. And we're starting to go that direction with the AODA. But, is there a point where we can say by 2025, hey, we're accessible? Have you approached the city council or anything regarding those expensive things, but necessary things that need to be done to accommodate people?
So just to answer your first question, I believe the estimate is about $3,500 a door. And that sounds for Upper Queens. They make them.
But for the overall recommendations.
Oh, sorry, I don't have that as a total. That hasn't been priced out yet. So how we do it is, if it's a major capital item, it goes into the community services capital budget as a recommendation. And if it's a smaller issue, let's take the doors that's under $10,000. It would be included in our budget as a minor capital item.
So the pathway itself, though, to get it completed, would a budgetary recommendation be made to get this done so it is more accessible with the recommendations that were made in the report?
Well, the short answer is yes. It would come out of the Parks and Cemetery minor capital budget. But again, it hasn't been costed out. So I wouldn't have an estimate of what that would be. Okay. And we will do that pre-budget and see what those costs would be, and we'll include it in the operating budget under a minor capital item.
Okay. I just don't want to get shelved because I found it was very frustrating, and I was in a manual chair and it wasn't so bad, but I got lifted out over the curbs, and now being a power chair, I experienced what a lot of people have been experiencing for a long time. Very difficult. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, Diane? You're on mute.
Yeah, okay. Is there an actual, I know we as a committee have a budget to do certain work, but do you have, Quinn or David, do you have an actual accessibility component of your budget?
So the short answer is no. And I would suggest that items that Accessibility Committee feels strongly about is those issues should go to council, and then the council was directed back to staff so that we include it in our budget. And what happens during budget time is those items are not forgotten. They come to us from the finance department as issues that have been deferred to the department. And from there, we try to include them into our current budget, next year's budget, or in our capital plan. So but before the audits were done, we had very little information that we could work from. And now we have several documents that we could work off of. And I think a good example is National Stadium, which needs a lot of work in terms of accessibility. And so we're looking to hopefully get a grant to do that work.
Great. Really appreciate that. And if anything, we can be a help to support what you're doing and explain budget reasons and the significance of accessibility. Please let us know.
Will do.
We want to work together.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have anything more?
No, that's it. That's it, Peter. Thanks.
So, anybody else have any questions? Thank you guys for taking time out for us. David, I know we've worked in the past on things, and I know you're on the side with us, and I appreciate it. The Rotary is a good example of the parking lot and everything, how we came together on that. So thank you so much. And Quinn, thank you so much too. Appreciate both of you.
Yeah, appreciate it. We'll sign out.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay. So we need adoption of the previous minutes. Yeah. Anybody? Yes, first by Jeff. Second, Judy. Any other changes or omissions? All in favor? Okay, passed. And let's go to, I think Dan's next on them. Let me see. Oh.
Yep.
Yeah,
hello, everyone.
Hey, Dan.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll go through the notes from last meeting. The first item was about the meeting on the Lakeside Drive, which we have done. And just to follow up on that, Nathan will be issuing a drawing to you very shortly on the parking space over off of Lakeside Drive there. He's working out some details on it. So you'll probably see something this week on that design. The second issue was about the bumper in that one parking space, and Public Works now has the bumper, and they're just organizing the time to put it in. So that probably will be done later this week. So that should rectify that situation. The second item is Redford Crescent, and as Quinn alluded, they will be doing their share of the pathway once they know where the play structure will go. We are going to be doing the paving up to property line, so we will have a paved surface to that point, and then they can carry on from there. Alone Ave is now essentially complete. I think there was just a couple minor items that had to be addressed. Queen Street project, that is going to be happening this winter, so there's no change there. The conversion of TJ Dolan Drive, that actually will begin in about a couple weeks. Steve Smith Construction is the contractor on it, and we will be issuing the drawings to the committee to let them know what's all involved. I understand there's some benches going to be put there, a bike corral, and pathway improvements all throughout. So if you have any questions regarding that, I suggest you contact Nathan Bodema.
So when that comes, sorry, Dan.
That'll be coming out this week as well. So,
okay.
The West Gore Street is now complete, as is the Mornington Street sidewalk. They are both complete. There's only one piece missing on the West Gore, and that is one accessibility or one plate that has to be put in. But from my understanding, both those sidewalks are now complete. The intersection improvements at Patricia and Catherine, my understanding is they are now complete. We did all 4 corners at that location. And yeah, we had talked about the north of Lakeside Drive already. And only one new thing to add is 456 Lorne Ave. That's in front of the new apartment building there. We will be putting a stretch of sidewalk along the frontage along Lorne Ave. I believe it's being laid out as we speak, and that should be happening sometime this week or next. So that is the update that I have right now. Is there anything else from the committee?
Yep, Bonnie.
Sorry, I have a sore throat, so it's a little difficult to talk yet. So the Lorne Ave one, is that going to run like from Queensland and then join up going towards like east towards Sobeys?
No, unfortunately, we don't have. This was going to be put in because of site plan. So they had always intended on putting a sidewalk in. So we're actually doing the work. What we'll do is we'll go from the corner of Lorne and Freeman and to the adjacent property, the Switzer property, and that's where the sidewalk will stop.
So are we putting?
We don't have the land to go in front of the Switzer property, so we have to stop the sidewalk there. But that gives that extension through. So the money actually came from the developer to pay for that sidewalk.
But are we going to be looking at like connecting that little bit of link out that's missing then?
We're looking at that and how best to do that. So we haven't decided just as of yet, but we are going to be looking at that in the coming days.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have, Judy?
Yeah, Dan, I haven't been down the street in a very long time, over on Front, across from the playground. That sidewalk, is that ever fixed?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. No, that was done years ago.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't been down there for a long time, but.
Yeah, no, we took out I think about 3-4 sidewalk panels to make sure it was nice and flat.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Diane? You muted yourself. Dan?
Oh, I did?
No, not you, Dan. Diane. Sorry.
Oh, Diane. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Dan, I have 2 routes to get downtown. One is going across that dreadful Mackenzie Street and going down or up Downey, and those, I have been stuck so many times in those railway tracks.
Okay.
And I know a lot of money was spent, but is that the responsibility of the railway, or does the city have some input into the crossings? And my other route is Wellington, and Wellington Street, the sidewalk on each side there's a lot of slope on the north side, and the south side the sidewalk, I have a headache by the time I get downtown. It is so rough. So I'm just wondering about those two items.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll look into the responsibility of the railway crossing. I believe that is responsibility of CN, but having said that, I will check in to see if there's anything that we can do to improve that. The Wellington Street sidewalk, what I'll do is I'll have our inspector go out there and inspect and just touch up those areas that need to be touched up. A lot of times he's really good at denoting these areas, but sometimes that's where we rely on you guys, is to help us out and picking these spaces. So I will have him go and have a look at that.
Thank you.
And that
okay, thank you.
That leads me into my question. That robot you had going around city, Stratford, we kind of wondered, is that going to be helpful, is continuing to do that, to find areas? Because I know I find a lot of areas, but I don't have really time to write it down and really don't know the streets that well. Was that a project a success?
I don't know if that's going to be a reoccurring thing or if it was just one time. And I really don't have access to what the report showed, but I'm willing to bet that it probably denoted a lot of areas. But what we tried to do is try and get the most problematic ones done, and then we do the best we can with what we have. So
yeah, absolutely. I understand. Like I went to see Britannia on a route. I tried, and by the way, Mornington's, Roger, you probably appreciate Mornington as well. It's lovely. Thank you. It's really well.
No problem.
I took Mornington.
It was long overdue.
Oh yeah, no kidding. It's a long project, but it's very good now. So I took Mornington to test that out, and then I went to Britannia, and with my chair, I didn't drive there. So, boy, those sidewalks for anyone, if they're going to have an accessible units in Britannia, it's a very scary ride to go along that street because of the driveways. I don't know if there's a solution to this or it's been thought out, but being an older part of the city, wow, there's a couple of times it drove me into the traffic because it was so steep. And I'm a pretty good driver. I've been driving for a while. I don't know if there's a solution. I'm just bringing up for conversation for you and your infrastructure committee to look at some point. I don't expect to be done right away, but I realize if somebody lives there, they're going to have a real hard time going to where they want to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Diane?
The same point. I often have to go on Wellington, and it's a very busy street. Yeah. And I feel I take my life in my hands or in my chair, having to go out on the street because the sidewalks are just so jarring. So again, going on the street is not a safe thing.
Yeah, it's a good point, and we'll finish this. We'll finish with you soon, Dan. But there was a person a few years ago that some older staff might remember who used to take the streets all the time and was eventually killed on the highway because he decided to take the highway. It's not recommended. But I too have the same problem as Diane. When I take I take the street because I get a headache on sidewalks. We don't make pneumatic wheels. Well, nobody chooses to have pneumatic wheels anymore because they used to blow every time. And then you're really in trouble.
Oh, I see.
But we don't have pneumatic wheels, and every little, if you got constant banging, that's why that by the park is so good. What they did on by the Tom Patterson, it's so smooth. It's beautifully done, and also the new one on Mornington, smooth. But boy, I tell you, I go on the roads, and people may wonder, why is he going on the roads? My granddaughter said, why is he on the road when he could be taking the sidewalk? I don't want to teach her bad habits, but it really is a problem. And I'm sure there's people wondering why we do that, but that's why we do it. Headaches are bad. And by the time you get to the destination, I don't know if there's a solution other than the new design of sidewalks is excellent. And it's really helpful. All right, any other things for Dan? Anybody? Again, thank you. Oh, Bonnie, go ahead.
I saw they were laying the sidewalk on the north side of West Gore, and I wanted to get back down to check to see that the corner have the tactile plates so that it connects up with the other side for people to be able to get over to it on each end. So I don't know if that happened.
Yeah. I think that was what I was referring to before. The tactile plates have not gone in just yet.
Oh.
But I think that's the finishing touch.
So are they going to have them that they connect to the east side of the corner of West Gore and St. Vincent and the south side? I know we don't do that way.
That'll have to find out from Nathan. I wasn't involved on that project.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks, and Warrington Street looks great. It was nice to get that done.
Awesome. That's great. Good to hear.
Huge. All right. Anybody?
It's a huge, you can now go from Vivian all the way to Ontario, all the way to Romeo and around. It's a huge block. It's great.
Roger,
that's great.
Yeah, Roger and I both live in that area. Roger, your hands up.
Yeah. So Dan, hi Dan, haven't talked to you for a while.
No.
In front of
good to hear you.
Tom Patterson Theater, and they did the nice exposed aggregate sidewalk, and it's beautiful.
Yes.
But I feel like they missed a curb cut. I don't know if it's been brought up to you. I don't think that there's like a chat for this that I could share the print screen, but it's like, so if you go out the new doors of the Tom Patterson, and then you would turn right, and you want to get to the river.
Yep.
So you turn right, and then you turn right again. So now you're kind of walking facing the arena, but you can't get to you can't cross where there is a curb cut on the left-hand side, like on the river side. You can't cross there to the sidewalk because they missed putting a curb cut on the exposed aggregate side.
Oh, okay.
So I think that for the flow and the accessibility of it all, I think that we should look at putting a curb cut there so that people who want to walk around the river from the Tom Patterson Theater that require a little bit of access don't have to walk all the way to the arena to cross there, or don't have to backtrack and walk up to the lights to cross there.
Yeah. Okay. No, that sounds great. Did you, if you could maybe just circle that on a sketch or something and then send it to my attention, I can certainly have that looked at. Or if you want to meet me out on site, that's fine too.
Sure. I'll send you an email with the screenshot I have, and then you'll know what I'm talking.
Okay. No, that's great. Thanks, Roger.
Sure.
Yeah, I noticed that one too, actually. I was kind of trapped and confused. All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Great.
Bye.
Bye. Transit. Bus shelters. Bonnie, you want to, or Lori, want to both are on the agenda for that? I know there's bus shelters. We had Mike here last meeting way back in whenever it was. Is there anything new? Lori?
So I sent Mike an email. So the one we were looking at, the one up by the Agriplex and Rotary complex. So they have that wooden shelter that's kind of across from the Agriplex building, and they've moved it now closer to the building so people don't have to cross the road to get to it. The platform's there now, and he said that the shelter will be built in the next few weeks. Okay. And I know Bonnie sent out an email with all those other places where the shelters were being done. So he said all the platforms have been installed already.
Well, that's great. Bonnie, do you want to add to that? Or that's good? Good. Terrific. Because yeah, that was a pretty bad shelter. So it's going to be totally accessible. Yes, Judy.
And they're revamping the one out at Zares, aren't they, Bonnie? Bonnie?
Yes.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yes,
Well,
they
will
are.
that be done this fall?
It should be. I would think they're mostly all done by now.
Oh,
Like,
good.
pads were laid, and I think they're doing 14. And that one is theirs. They got permission to be able to do it, as far as I know.
Good.
Okay.
Yep. That's a nasty one.
Okay. Anything else on shelters? All right, moving on. 8. Parking. I don't know if there's any parking issues. I'm good with that. Okay, seeing none, move on to number 9, site plan review, subcommittee feedback reports. Yeah, I guess Dan was doing the report, so maybe we shouldn't dismiss it, should have moved it up. But anyways, we did the site plan on the gas station and the hotel. And there really wasn't a lot to be able to make comments on. The parking was fairly reasonable. We made some minor changes, but including with the sidewalks, which is really narrow. And but anyways, it's going to be a hotel and gas station for those who don't know. Just this stuff. Actually, it's more off of Lauren, isn't it, Bonnie? Or right? Good nod. Yeah. Yes, Diane. Do you have a question?
When is that to be? When is construction to begin there?
Usually, when you get the plans, it's fairly short. Bonnie, do you have the answer to that?
There's no answer. There's been some site plans we've passed 10 years ago and they still haven't come to fruition. It's whenever the developer wants to move ahead. And there's an entrance on Lauren and on Erie Street.
Yeah.
So, and there should be a sidewalk built from Tim Hortons to the corner and then the other way. Now, I'm not sure when that's going to go in, whether they're going to wait till when they do the hotel. I'm not sure because the hotel part hasn't been passed yet. Like it's been passed for the zoning change, but not site plan.
Yes, Diane?
Is the hotel going to be on the vacant lot, or are they adapting that industrial building?
Where the lot is right now, the front section off of Erie will be the store, the gas station, and the car wash. And then right behind it, you know, where the driveway is that you go in to get to Tim Hortons the back way, it'll be right in that little section. So it's just everything on that one lot.
Okay.
Okay, and we're not going to have any input on the inside of the hotel, so we don't know what chain it is. We don't know what if it's a cookie cutter or anything. Is there any way that we can get some input? Because I've actually been on with human rights with hotels in Toronto that wanted to make exits narrow, which made it possible in accessible room to be able to exit, and we lost, which is just beyond belief how that can be built. And the judgment went in favor of the hotel. I think there's a little bit of cash thing. I was asked to intervene with the Human Rights Commission, and I couldn't believe we didn't get it. Bonnie, you have any clue?
You mean the inside, right?
Yeah, the inside of the room.
We only get to do the outside, unfortunately. I don't know if there's any movement anywhere from any groups to try to get the government to look at that, especially in public places like, you know, hotels and stores and stuff like that, that we could, the accessibility committee could start to have some input. I know they've got the AODA standard, and which I'm guessing needs to be updated still, right? So that it includes more doorways. That hotel, I believe we kind of saw some of the site plan, and it just showed like the parking spots, and that's all we really get to speak about. But the only thing is, if it has to come to council, I could ask that question about the doorways inside to ensure that when they're building it, you know, just put the motion in their head. Sometimes they'll go with it. Like, you know, Blake Street, we suggested to them about it, and they were going to look at trying to make it accessible, and they built those apartments. Now, whether they can or not, I'm not sure.
So for those who don't know, you can get an online email from the AODA Alliance, gives you updates and the changes that they're planning to make. I highly recommend it if you want to stay in touch. It's very good. It's put together by David Leprosky, who's a lawyer, blind. He's been working on ODA since the beginning of time. I used to get a zillion emails from him in the 90s every day. They are working on wanting to get the interior. I know that's kind of a request that was made when they put together, and the provincial government didn't want our noses in that area. So there is a push to get that through. There's also the Canadian Disabilities Act, which has been promoted, but I don't even know what it is. And it's apparently been there for 2 years, and I've seen no results from that whatsoever. And they keep promoting that they have made it, and there's nothing. I've never seen anything come down from that. So we can also incorporate that into Diane's presentation too, maybe that she can enlighten us on some of the things you guys found as a subcommittee, which we're getting to in a second. So if you want to address that issue too, that'd be great. Okay, so any other comments on that? We also reviewed Britannia Street, and there's a lot of work to be done. It's under new business, phase 2, but might as well address it here. We looked at the drawings, and there's a long way to go. And if someone has a real interest in being that area, I think we're going to continue consulting with them. And how that process is going to work out, maybe Tatiana, can you fill us in at all on how they're going to come back to us? Because I haven't heard a word since our meeting.
Through the chair, unfortunately, I don't have that information. And speaking with staff and social services, they're taking the lead on this project, and they'll be coming back at some point. In what form, I don't know.
Okay, thank you. All right. So any questions? Moving on. Report on City Council and accessibility issues. Bonnie, is there anything that you need to report or tell us about?
No, and what I'm planning to do is, as I've done in the past, if something comes up, I'll just email you all.
Okay. All right. Business arising from previous minutes. The goals that we have, the recreation facilities, we've already done that part. And the manual is complete. That's exciting. And now we can talk a bit about that as we want to promote that manual. Do you want to speak to that, Tatiana, at all? Or you? Yeah, okay, go.
Through the chair, yes, absolutely. So as you are aware, Council adopted the Facility Accessibility Design Manual earlier this summer. Because it was summertime and we weren't meeting, we haven't really done a lot to promote it yet. So we're going to be looking for some feedback from this group. I briefly chatted with the chair. So our intent would be to kind of introduce the manual out to developers and the public and kind of start a launch, just getting them to know what the manual is, what its purpose. And then we want to start doing some targeted sessions with like SABA, which is the Stratford Area Builders Association, and other members of the public, trying to get them on board. Because as you're aware, the manual is only applicable to Stratford, City of Stratford facilities or buildings we lease or we renovate. It's not applicable to private developers, but we really want to educate private developers on the benefits of the manual and why it's important to build to these standards if and when they can. So for the first part, I think what we'd like to do is kind of issue a press release, maybe get some quotes from members of this committee, and then start sending it out to different developers, and then start working on our presentation to them. So I think what we're going to do is have staff be heavily involved just to kind of explain the technical component, but I think it'd be really helpful to have some members here also provide some real life examples of how the manual can be used and why it's beneficial. So I'm going to pause there to see if anyone has any questions, comments, if there's anyone interested that wants to start working on this with me.
Anybody? Diane, did you want to? Yes. Okay.
Hi, Tatiana. Yes, I'd be happy to provide some real life examples. I don't know if everyone knows, but I've been very sick. So, and it's ongoing. And I might as well just say I'm in a palliative condition now. So I can provide some real life examples. I can't commit to like daily meetings, things like that, but I would be happy to go over some things with you. I would be happy to speak with anyone regarding the real life examples I've experienced. And I've done a lot of traveling. I've like Peter had to adapt a whole house, as did I. So I know some of the important issues. So I'd be happy to contribute what I know as I can.
And Lori?
I just wanted to say I'm really excited, Tatiana, that you're taking charge of this. I know that when our housing subcommittee started, that seemed to be part of our scope as well. And it was feeling very overwhelming. So to know that, you know, you're going to take charge of this. I think Jeff had talked about when we were kind of talking about the manual and how to approach builders with it. He talked about the personal experiences as well. And I think that's really, really important and valuable for people to understand why they're being asked to build things in certain ways. So it's great to hear that that's happening and that you're going to be kind of taking the lead on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
We all thank you for that.
Very much.
As you know, I'll be helping Tatiana with this too. So we want to work hard on this. I see Judy, but I just want to comment, Diane. I knew that news before, but if you want to do a video when you feel good, instead of putting pressure on our timeline, do something that you feel that you could share as a personal experience on a video. And just in case you're not feeling up to it, we really would like your input. I think that'd be great. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to get to you again in a second. Judy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, yeah, I'd like to be involved as well, because there's so many different kinds of disabilities. Some of the things about the Britannia Street project I found very disturbing in terms of different issues other than mobility. And I just think that should be addressed as well.
Great. Thank you, Judy. All right. And if you do want to be involved, maybe send a little note to Tatiana, right? Is that okay? And let her know what you can contribute and what you want to do. This is really, I think we all, those who've been here for a while, and Tatiana also, that this has been our, like, as Tatiana put it, as a legacy. We need to get this through. It's so important. And it'll change a lot in the city of Stratford. Attitudes and just once that happens, we can really move on, especially with architects and professionals. I think that's their attitudes really need to change, and not the attitude where we know what we're doing, so don't bother us with your accessibility stuff, you know. And that is, we go by OBC, that's good enough, you know. We have to change that attitude, and it's been an ongoing problem since I've been in a wheelchair. That's a long time.
Me too.
Yes. Anybody else have comments? So what do you need now, Tatiana, to get us going? We're going to talk about, actually, we can incorporate with the accessible housing bylaw as well. But if you have anything else that you want to say, or do we need to move something to move this forward so it doesn't get stale?
So through the chair, not at this time. So my intent is to start building kind of the project plan for the education, and then start working on these initial documents that we're going to release to the public. So once I have a draft completed, maybe I'll share it with the whole group. And if you have any questions or any input, if you could provide it, that'd be great. And then now knowing who is sort of interested, I can kind of then start reaching out to those members to get some additional feedback on a go forward basis.
Please.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay. We're going to move to this portion, which is a big portion. Diane and Lori and Bonnie and Jeff, and I'm missing somebody. Oh, and Judy, of course. I've been working on this housing bylaw. So, and also this housing subcommittee. I think they've done a ton of work. So, Diane, it's all your.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Lori for the excellent note she developed with everybody's input. We had a number of meetings over the summer, and things really came together for us with a meeting with Linda Lawson, who is the accessibility coordinator for Oshawa, and Dave Sappleton, who was what was the acting manager of planning services, and he'd obviously been involved in this project for a long time. He and Linda worked very closely. Now, we're not talking about a bylaw. We're talking about what we've called a tax incentive, but it's not. It's a tax deferral system. And how it started, I think you all have the notes, but the city of Oshawa, under the community improvement plan that is part of all municipal projects, they started to revitalize their downtown area, and they have a heavy university college presence. And so they were developing, there was going to be a lot of development for that area. So under Section 28 of the Ontario Planning Act, there is an allowance for incentive programs, and their city council developed an incentive program. I again thank you, Lori, for the wonderful notes, for developers who wanted to build in these two areas. And what they did was incorporate a condition of their accessibility design standard. They have their own manual, which is excellent. We have ours, which we're proud of. So it is not necessarily a grant, but it's a tax deferral. So for a new building that incorporates accessibility units, the taxes are deferred over a 10-year process. So for the first year, they only pay 5. And then it increases, and at the 10-year point, then the full taxes come into effect. And the selling point for council was that they weren't putting out any money. They were just deferring getting money. So that's really important. Now, as I said, they had to incorporate the accessibility manual, design standard manual. Again, so this ties in exactly with what Tatiana is doing. What we're doing with the manual is the developers and architects are provided with the manual, and the OSHWA has developed a template for what they want for a design, and they have a checklist. So then the architect takes the template to their accessibility coordinator, which is really exciting news that we might be getting one even part-time. And it goes to their committee, and any concerns are then taken back to the architect / developer. And then it is revised if they can get the buy-in, and it's taken to the AAC. The AAC, if they have any further comments, it goes to one of their commissioners. And she said, when we asked, is it a commissioner dedicated to accessibility? It's not. It is she said, a high-level bureaucrat. And I don't know if that would be you, Tatiana, or not, but it goes to a high-level commissioner who then either agrees with the AAC or dismisses what she regards as not necessary. And so they make the final decision. And they do have enforcement. And prior to that, the developer has to provide a security deposit based on the accessibility. And when the project is completed and the checklist is okayed, they do provide a signed letter back to the architect developer, and the security deposit is returned. This is an important point. If the developer walks away partway through the 10-year project, 10-year term, then that tax deferral is stopped, and the 100% tax is imposed. Now, they have the challenges, same everywhere, trying to increase the number of units that are built using the accessibility design manual. based on the development, whether it's a 3-unit or a 10-unit. And they used an example. They have, through this, they do have some input into the interior of the units. So doorways have to be larger. They used an example of the microwave. If it's installed above a stove in an accessible unit, then they have to convince the developer to put it lower. They have to do a lot of the walkthrough that Tatiana is talking about. Now, the other problem is some of the units, the accessible units, are larger, and some developers want to charge more for those units. So we're talking about accessible units. And I think he said they also apply it to affordable units. Now, they do not provide this deferral for single residential units, but if that is something we could certainly look at. And we asked how they make developers and architects aware of this. And Dave said, well, it's sort of word of mouth. It's out in the street now. And they had to do something very exciting. Once a year, an entire council meeting is devoted to accessibility achievements. So the committee presents everything they've achieved. They have awards for a business and residential. And at the same meeting, architects and developers are invited. And because this is so well promoted within the community, and tax deferral is, developers really like that idea. People attend the meeting. And as Lori said, they invite the public to share any issues. And again, the accessibility awards. And we as a committee would love to see that happen. And I know Bonnie is really excited as a counselor about the tax deferral. So I invite. We're not on bylaw, but if we could get something like this going, that would just be awesome. And Bonnie, go ahead.
I wish I could talk better, sorry. Yeah, I was really excited by it because I think it's an easier sell when to council when we don't actually have to put it in the budget, when it's actually a deferral. It's a deferral of money that wasn't coming in, that when somebody's building, we're just not going to receive the full amount of money for, say, 10 years, just like their idea. And I'm looking forward to when Linda sends us the links, because I've been on their website and I couldn't find the link to the grant program to do a follow-up on it.
Linda told me she would be sending, this is another really great point. They're sending us a copy of their template and a copy of their checklist. And the two of them were so forthcoming and want to stay in touch with us, want to help us. And what's interesting is other smaller communities within Durham region are looking at their example.
Well, what I think is really great about that is that saves staff so much time. If they've already got a template that's working from another city, plus they can get a hold of Linda themselves and talk about the pitfalls and things that, you know, it saves us a lot of work. And looking at this, I think we should make a motion from our committee that we would like staff to investigate this idea, because I don't see that it's going to be a major problem, but I don't know. We have to check with staff, because of course it means more work for them, and you know, they're limited in what they can get done. But I mean, it would actually, if we could coordinate that with Tatiana, getting our manual out to the developers at the same time, say, I don't know how long this would take to get something like this implemented, but for staff to go ahead and to look at this. I mean, when we don't have to budget it and it's a deferral of the property taxes, I mean, we have to find out if there's any pitfalls in that. But I mean, there is, where the fact is the city won't be getting more tax dollars in, but if it means we can get more accessibility units built in our city, and that are, you know, the developer actually has to follow our manual to do that, I think it's a win-win for everybody, myself.
I agree. And I will email Linda, well, I mean, yesterday being Labor Day, I will email her this afternoon and see if she can send me the template and checklist, and I'll send them to our housing subcommittee and to you, Tatiana, and of course, Peter.
I don't think it hurts to send it out to the whole group.
Pardon me?
I don't think it hurts to send it to the whole group. So
yes,
you know.
Oh, do you want me to send it to everyone on the committee?
I think it would be helpful. I mean, if anybody, you know, it doesn't mean we can't improve theirs. We might see something that was added to it. I mean, I don't know how everybody else feels, but.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right, that was great job by the committee, in particular. That when I read it, I was so surprised. At first, I said, Oshawa, what are you doing in Oshawa? So I'm really thankful for that. Any other?
And that they have input to the interior.
Yeah, that was a big question, because I know ODA is not approved. That how did they get around the ODA? That was going to be my question. How did they get the architects to say, okay, we'll let you look at it? Is it tax incentive only, or?
Yep.
Yes.
Under the community improved, under section 28 of the community improvement plan, they can come up with things like this. And I'm not the only part that we didn't really get cleared, and they weren't sure. It's actually, they were doing it for their downtown, their heritage area, and for near like the universities and stuff, where there's not a lot of space and land. So they were able to set it up. So I asked one of us, maybe it was me, I don't know, asked if it's possible just to have a grant for accessibility only. And they weren't sure, but staff can look into that and see under that section if they actually could develop a tax incentive program just for accessibility only. We already have a heritage grant that we do, but that's where they get a loan to do improvements downtown, right? So whether it could be expanded or whether it would be a brand new program, I'm thinking it might have to be a brand new program, but that staff will come back with a recommendation on that.
Diane, did you want to say something?
Yes, they did mention that they do have their heritage plan that is separate, but they gave an example of one heritage building, a downtown heritage building that had a rooftop patio, and they couldn't put in an elevator, but they were able to put in what I would assume would be an outside lift. And it fell under, it bridged both the heritage plan and this plan.
So my question would be, and I'll let this be my last question, and I'll turn it over. How does staff react? Because I know sometimes it's difficult to have them convince them, as our manual indicated. How do they convince them that this is important, other than their own buildings?
Well,
education.
It's the money. They're gonna, like, now you said 5%, Diane. I understood that they didn't pay any taxes the first year, but maybe it's 5%. I can't remember that part. I missed that part, if that's so. But you figure, say you said your house cost you around $20,000 to have the renovations done. So if they have an apartment building or a house that's say worth $5,000 in taxes, and they save 100% of that the first year, and each year they still save 10%, they've got their money back from that. So if they did 100, I think another example she gave us was like an apartment building, and the taxes are 100,000. So if they're saving that much the first year, and then 90, they only pay what? 10,000, 20, 30, 40, over those 10 years, they've basically saved that money they put into making it accessible. And, the only change they said, like Diane mentioned, is say in year 3 or 4, you get complaints from somebody that's living there, and somebody maybe moved in there that didn't have accessibility issues, and they changed something in the structure so that it's no longer accessible, then they lose the grant. Then they go automatically to the 100%. So there's a big incentive there. They said it's going over pretty good. We asked the question about if the committee doesn't approve of the plans. They said that's never happened. They have like go back and forth. They said they've actually had times where staff thought some things needed to be changed, but the committee was more interested in other things. So I mean, like, it'd be just like us approving the site plan agreements and we give our recommendations. It'd be the same idea.
Yes, she said negotiation is a big part of it. And so there's compromise there. At times there has to be compromise on either side, but and Peter, you asked how they got staff involved in this. Well, again, it's the education, and they've been doing this for a few years, so everyone is aware of it. And that annual meeting, staff attend, and we asked how they got their council to buy into this, and she said it's because they are very aware of accessibility issues. And really the only time we see council is 5 minutes a year to present the Business Accessibility Award. And that's pretty lame.
Yeah, that's got to change. Lori?
My understanding of that general meeting, it wasn't, and I could be wrong, but I didn't think it was a council meeting. I thought it was the AAC had an annual meeting where the public was invited, city councilors were invited, and that's where they did their awards and did, they sometimes would have a speaker, and and at that point, public could also talk about maybe areas that still needed to be addressed. But I might be wrong, but that's how I kind of understood. It wasn't a city council meeting. It was the AAC committee themselves who would have kind of like a, sort of like an AGM, although that's not something that the advisory committee would have.
It's something like our transit annual general meeting that we have for accessibility.
Oh, you have one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have one every year in the fall. Actually,
okay.
It's coming up.
So we talked about maybe that would be something that would get put on, like maybe that would be another subcommittee that would want to look after that from our committee, if that's something that the committee decided to do.
Okay, Judy, we have to wrap up pretty soon, so we're...
Okay, I just wanted to say that those transport meetings, oh, Bonnie, the only people that ever went to those were the ones that were there for the coffee and donuts initially. And then after that, there was only staff. Julia was there. You know, it was very poorly attended, as opposed to the ones that we had at the city hall for, say, like the Market Square. They were really, really well attended.
I think for the transit, I think because it's very limited population, that was...
A lot of people take the bus.
Yeah, but compared to buildings, you got developers, you get
oh, for sure.
People with disabilities that access all these things. I never take the bus. I go to the meeting, the transit yearly thing, because I'm on a committee and I care about others, but there's not much really. I think this is going to be much bigger than that. I think it involves everybody. So I'm not concerned about that part.
You have to remember that the transit meeting is for accessibility.
Right.
So you get around 8 or 10 other people there, which is pretty good. Because I don't know how many total.
Not this year. Not this year. I think it was Judy, Peter, and myself.
But that's besides the point. We can move forward and make this is a good idea. I think it's fantastic. You mentioned we should make a motion, and I believe that should be the case. And if someone wants to make that motion and how wording, Casey maybe can help us with that, or Tatiana.
I'll make the motion, but I'm not sure what the wording should be. Yeah, that we have staff investigate. How do we get them to do it? To investigate under Section 28 of the Building Act. Do we have a community improvement plan, Tatiana?
For the chair, to be honest, that's planning. I don't know, but my recommendation is, so the advisory committees can't direct staff, only council can. So my recommendation would be that the motion would be that Stratford City Council consider adopting a community improvement plan under Section 28 of the Planning Act with a specific incentive program for the development of to develop an incentive program which would provide deferral of taxes over 10 years following the development of accessible units in accordance with the Facility Accessibility Design Manual, something along those lines. You're going to want to make it very clear what you're asking council to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
That's good. that's what you're saying.
I'll make that motion.
Want to repeat that, Diane? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I can't. Tatiana, be my voice.
No. Well, Casey, did you get that? Did you want to read it to us or not?
I'll do up a draft one of Tatiana's wording, and I can send it to Tatiana and also Diane in the seconder and make sure we have the wording exactly right.
Okay.
So do we have a seconder? Okay, Lori. All right. So any discussion more on it before we pass it? Changes? Sounds good. All in favor? Oh, Lori.
No, sorry. I just want to ask. I was wondering about Tatiana's opinion about going to council with this now, or what are people's thoughts about connecting this with the plan that you're going to be developing in terms of the design manual?
Do you want to comment?
Yeah, so through the chair, because I don't know what is all involved with the incentive program or the community improvement program, whether we have to do one before the other, I would recommend you would make this motion. It's up to council to direct staff to investigate. If council does not direct staff to do anything with it, then nothing will be done. And we don't want to stall the facility accessibility design manual. So I would still recommend promoting it and getting that out there. And then if at the end of the day, an incentive program is developed, then that's how we would tie it all in. And then we would just do even more education sessions down the road.
Sounds good to me. Excellent.
So, okay. So I'm just wondering if it's more helpful for, and I'm just thinking out loud here, for us to ask City Council to direct staff to connect with the City of Oshawa and their incentive program and how that went about, more so than being so specific about what we want. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what people's thoughts are on that.
Okay, Bonnie.
I think the emotion is important to go forward now because it's going to take time for this to get done. And in the notes that go to council, we can do the background part about saying how, you know, provide Linda's link and information to staff. And by that time, Diane will probably have got the rest of that information, like from Linda, and we can also have Tatiana forward that to staff, or even actually it would be kind of neat if it'd be part of the report that goes to council, because it probably won't go to council till, well, probably the 13th, right? If it's even then able to get on the 13th, it should be able to. On the 13th, we can put the link in as part of the background information. But that would work.
Okay, thanks.
All right. And Bonnie, you can promote the council. That would be really important too. We want them on board. Okay. Any else before we? Okay. We don't have to reread it, right? Do we? No. All in favor? Okay. Great. Everybody. All right. That's a good job. I'm really impressed. And we're moving forward, which is great. Thank you. Terms. Casey, you want to address that?
Yeah, so Jeff and Peter, your terms are both ending in November, so you're welcome to reapply anytime. It will be advertised probably within the next couple weeks. And yeah.
Okay. Jeff's not here, so I guess you're just talking to me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And that's it.
We have to do our budget, Peter.
Oh, the budget. I missed that. No, maybe on purpose. Budget. Yes, we have to do a budget. This is the chair's worst nightmare doing this. But anyways. Anything you want to say about it? We have, I mean, basically, yes, Bonnie.
I make a motion that we pass the budget that we had last year.
Yeah, sounds good.
So last year it was 2,520, and it was broken down 420 for materials, $900 for meeting costs, and $1,200 for special projects. And we didn't spend any of the 2021 budget so far.
One question I might have is, of course, we would like to promote this manual. And should we be requesting an extra budget, or does funds come from somewhere else if we want to have a workshop to promote the manual to professionals? And that would be Tatiana or Bonnie.
I just had an idea is since we didn't spend any of our budget this year, I'm wondering if we could make a motion that Tatiana could use the funds to promote the manual, because we have till December to spend the money. And I can't see I don't think we'll be meeting before December. It'll all depend on when the Ontario Parliament decides the emergency's over, but would that work? Do you need money for that, Tatiana?
So through the chair, we can certainly kind of get some feedback from the group on how you'd like the manual to be promoted. And then depending on those methods, I know one of the members had recommended printing and having some manuals bound for the committee members. So we could certainly allocate some of the funds towards that. I would just potentially put a bug in everyone's ears. If the intent is to do more educational workshops, then $1,200 for special projects may not be sufficient. So I'm just going to throw that out there. If you wanted to get speakers and maybe do a donation on their behalf, or if you want to get a professional to come in, they sometimes have higher fees. I'm just going to throw that out there for now.
Yeah, I agree, because one of the things we talked about was doing a workshop. Whether it's probably going to end up being 2022 though, right? So we're going to need to increase, and I do think it's necessary to have some incentives to have professional speakers, that as well as community speakers. So I think, yeah, I see Dan. So I think it's really important that we, I don't know if we have to rent a place. We did that with a heritage. I don't know if that was paid for by the city or our committee. I can't remember. If anybody knows. Yes, Bonnie, you're nodding yes.
If our committee puts something on, the insurance and the cost of the building and, you know, transit, stuff like that's all covered.
Okay, that's good. Lori? Oh, sorry, Diane. Diana's first, sorry.
We might need to do some advertising.
Right.
And so we need money for that. We have to have some money for advertising. We can't just rely on something being put on the city site, because a lot of people don't go there.
And we need to use reporters. We need to use whatever means we can, Facebook, to get this promoted. But we need to also get it in developers and builders' hands, at least the information, the option to go to the workshop. So who's next? I think Lori or Judy. Lori, you had earlier. Sorry. So go to Lori and then Judy.
So I'm just asking. So we're talking about a budget for 2022.
Right.
So I guess kind of what Tatiana was saying, if we're looking at maybe doing something like a general meeting and we have a guest speaker and we want to provide whatever refreshments or whatever, that would be significant for the budget, I would think. Yeah. But I don't know what you would put that under, and I'm not sure if you would request more or if that would be, but I do think it's something that we might want to consider. Does this have to be done today? Like, do we have to? Okay.
Judy, you have a comment?
Can we use this year's money for something happening next year?
No, we're not allowed to do that. I think we can use that money for promotion of the manual. I think we need to do whatever we can, like Bonnie said to Tatiana, we got to do that, but I think we need an increase if we're going to have a workshop. So we have to discover, and I don't want to do this on my own, so we have to figure out some amount that we can use, a suggested amount. I don't know the balance of what the city pays for and what our committee responsibility is as far as paying someone to do a workshop or facilities, refreshments, and promotion. All these things need to be considered. And I'm not a mathematician or accountant. Diane?
Bonnie, do you know what percentage other committees ask for? Is there a percentage each year they can ask?
There's really no limit on that. It depends on what you're wanting. So far, the committees I've been on have just basically asked for the same as last year, but they also took that, what was it, 1,000 or whatever that percentage was, we took, can't remember what was it for, COVID expenses. So unless you have a specific project you're going to be doing something different like this, then you can ask for an increase, and then council can either accept it or not. It goes to the finance budget, but it's not, each committee just depends on what they're doing. They're all different amounts, and then each committee, each year, the chair has to do up a report that goes to council what you did in the last year.
Yay.
Oh, sorry, can I just ask, Casey, would you, I think you were the one who told us it was 2,520 for our last budget. And could you just say what the breakdown was again for that, please?
So materials was 420. Meeting costs was 900. And special projects, 1,200 for 2520.
Okay, so if we wanted, is special projects pretty flexible? Could we put that money into, say we want to do an education piece? Can we say, okay, our special project will be this education piece? Is that possible? Or do we have to kind of identify that now? Does anybody know?
We haven't had to in the past. It's sort of been all encompassing. If it was your project was the housing, then anything related to that would fall under that. So
that's a good question, because the heritage that was put on before, I have no idea what the budget was. I wasn't involved in the planning, and it was regarding accessibility in heritage buildings. We had the speaker from St. Mary's who made St. Mary's more accessible, and we had a whole bunch of things. And I don't know what the cost was for that. Does anybody, Casey or Bonnie, know that? No, we don't know that. Okay, so what do we do in this situation? Diane, you got a comment?
What if, you know, I wonder if we could ask for a round figure of 3,000, and that extra money should cover a guest speaker, but you know, I'd almost like to double it because we are going. I know, Peter, I saw your look.
No, actually, I would agree. I mean, but the problem is we have to justify it for council, and
right.
That's, since we haven't spent anything, how do we justify doubling it? Tatiana?
Through the chair, perhaps I can make a recommendation, maybe increase the special initiatives, maybe just to start to 1,500. It's only a couple $100 that gives you a little bit more wiggle room. And then what we can do is in 2022, we can do all the investigation. Maybe we start with holding one workshop and we figure out what the cost is and then develop the plan going forward. So that way for council, yes, it's a slight increase with the understanding that we want to do a lot more education around accessibility and accessibility needs and requirements in the city, which I think will cover you next year. And then we can get a really good sense of what it would cost. And then that way we can have a better budget amount for 2023.
Sounds really good. There we go. So that's 1,500 on top of the 2,500. Is that 2,500 again?
So just do from 1,200 to 1,500.
1,200.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Casey?
So okay. That would be a total of 2,820.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. We could justify that. That sounds good. So anybody want to make a motion for that? Bonnie, the seconder, Lori. And all in favor? Carried. All right. Casey, you're gonna send me that budget, or?
Yep, you should have it all.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, I can resend it though. I can resend it.
I get a zillion emails and
It actually maybe came from Wendy Partridge, not me, but I have it still.
I haven't gotten anything from Wendy.
Okay, I'll resend it.
Can you send it to all of us, Casey, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, and anybody wants to assist me, Bonnie, you helped me in the past. You want to work together on that? Because you're a counselor, that helps.
Yep. I haven't. I mean, it started at 1, so.
Yeah. Well, we got close. We're done. So, yes, Lori.
So I just for under new business for next time, would it be possible to get someone to look into, I know there's been talk about the accessibility coordinator, if there'd be somebody who could speak to that to our committee. I know we kind of talked in bits and pieces, but I don't know if it's necessarily on our minutes. So if somebody could.
I actually think it'd be a good idea for us to make a motion that we would encourage it, because during the budget deliberations, they're going to be looking at that, because I had asked staff about that and they got back to me. And so they're going to be looking at that. And I sent them a big, long paragraph about all that we were missing and what, Julie did for us, right? Because we're certainly missing that a lot. And we certainly miss having somebody, staff's trying very hard to help us, but, they weren't part of the program. I don't want to say don't understand it, but we certainly feel the lack of help coming from that during the site plan. So I don't think it would hurt for us to send a note to the budget committee or to council to say that accessibility committee would endorse having an accessibility coordinator.
Because
my motion, actually.
Because that would be the person who'd be looking after the whole incentive thing, right? Instead of us having to make a motion to city councilors, that person would be actually doing all that research and getting that kind of.
But we still have to send it to council first for them to pass it, and then.
Right, but that person would be.
The accessibility coordinator would be taking care of that.
Right. The other thing I was wondering if next meeting under new business we could talk more about the possibility of a general meeting, or like when you talk about workshop, I kind of see that happening within a general meeting, but maybe not. But I just wonder if that's something that our committee wants to do kind of in the spring or something. But I think if it is, it's something we need to start talking about now.
Actually, when you have a Zoom meeting, it's really easy to do breakout rooms, because I've been in several now that they end up putting you into a breakout room, and I don't know how you do it, but I mean, you put the breakout room up and you go into it and you discuss things and you come back together. It's probably easier and faster than when you're actually at a meeting. And I don't think it hurts for us to start, this is September, to looking at having something like we've passed the plan and work with Tatiana. I mean, maybe we can even do some little thing this year yet.
So I do have a question for Tatiana. You haven't heard about the accessibility coordinator, right? You have been filling in for that position.
So through the chair, I'm aware that the discussions are ongoing. It would need to be approved by council in the budget prior to position being hired. At this time, I don't know what their scope of work would include. And I would just caution that it may not be as extensive as the previous coordinator if the decision is only to appoint someone part-time, because there is a lot of requirements from the corporation standpoint that they would need to complete. So I would just caution it. If you wanted to make a motion, recommending that the position be created and filled, I think that, as Councillor Henderson said, that would be great. With respect to an AGM, again, I think you guys can have the discussions, but I don't know that it will have the staff resources to assist you with this at this time. It may be easier to start off because we already do accessibility awards. It's already awarded at council. I don't know that that necessarily makes sense for this, or if maybe you start small and do a whole workshop for the National Accessibility Week. So similar to what the City of Ottawa does, where they bring in speakers and it's a half-day event. So maybe we start with something like that.
I totally agree. We did that in Niagara. We had a National Access Awareness Week. That's what it's called then. And that's the best time to do that. I also am concerned that if we get a coordinator, we lose Tatiana, and her role is so vital to this committee, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm a little nervous about that too. I think we need an assistant. I don't know if we necessarily need a coordinator because, and of course, Tatiana might not agree with me, but I want her to stay on this committee. I need her so bad. She's been such a big help and she does a lot behind the scenes. So my theory is that if we get a coordinator, they're going to say, well, Tatiana, you're not needed here anymore. And I want to keep her. So
through the chair, I would stay on. So I would still be a part. So they would just be another person. So you don't have to worry about that. Myself and Dan Sykes will still be here with the committee.
That's good, because that's not what I don't want to lose her. I mean, neither. I'm so happy to have you. So if we get,
did you get my motion, Casey?
Is that, well, hang on. I just wanted to ask Tatiana, you warned us against that?
No. She said that was okay.
I recommend, I would recommend, yes, that motion to support the hiring of an accessibility coordinator would be a good motion. I just wanted to caution, I don't know what that scope of work will look like yet. Okay. So I don't want the committee to get their hopes up thinking that this person's going to do all of the research. They might not. So again, I just kind of, until we see that scope of work and that position is filled, we won't know.
Yeah, the previous coordinator did a lot more than what was she did a ton of work, and that was, don't expect the next one to do that.
Well, you can tell she really cared about accessibility.
She was passionate, and she went above and beyond her job description.
Plus, it makes a difference when that's their job. Like when you look at Taylor or Tyler, like he had other jobs to do, right? It wasn't just accessibility. Where Julie, that's what she did. She did it for us, and she did it for the county. And that makes a big difference, I think, when they can just concentrate on accessibility issues.
Yeah, I don't want to
bring other jobs up.
I don't want to comment on that because there's some issues there. So, anyways, we got to close up. Diane,
the quick things.
Well, I have a motion on the floor. I need a second.
Yeah, let's do that motion. So, do we have a seconder? All in favor? Okay, good. There we go. And okay, now Diane.
Two quick things. I know we have to close. Two quick things. I just want to say again, it was our committee who did the research to track this down and do the meeting. So I'm just again giving a huge thank you to the committee members, the subcommittee members. And Bonnie, quick question. 16 Blake, they've put the sewer in. Do you know when they're starting building?
No, we never know that. Like that's just whenever they can hire their contractors. And I know a lot of people are putting jobs off right now because of the price of lumber in Nashville. I mean, when we got the quote in to do Mackenzie and Stratford Street, it was $2 million over budget. So we backed it off. Like hopefully I don't know if the cost will ever come back down again, but everything's gone sky high. Like my brother-in-law was going to put his patio in or deck last year, $2,500 more this year, just for the wood. Just that's different. So it all depends. Like some of them start right away. Some of them, like there's that project on Deferral Street. I've been on council since 2006, and that was before my time that started, and it's come back several times since, and it still hasn't developed. It all depends on the contractor or the developer.
One last question, Lori.
Yeah, sorry. Is it possible when we're going to have a meeting if there's reports? So, for example, the like that list that went to community services, can that be sent out so we have that? Like again, it's something that I don't want that to get lost, right? Like they reported on that list and now we don't want it forgotten. So I don't know how we keep those things without kind of losing what's happened to them. But anyways, if someone could send that list out that went to them to start with, that would be helpful, I think. And then, and even like if the budget's coming up, if we could see that beforehand, I think it just helps us better when it comes to the meeting. So.
Bonnie and I, we're going to work on the budget, right? Together. Are you good for that? And then
you mean the report to council?
Yeah. And I'm just saying if those things could be sent out prior to the meeting, then it just kind of helps
Yeah, I
when we
didn't
have the
see
meeting.
that one on the bathroom list that went sent out. I never saw that.
Yeah, you know what? I made that document. It was quite large, and I had trouble just sending it even to the city. So I couldn't, because it was too large. I had a lot of pictures and a lot of descriptions. So if I wouldn't have had trouble sending it, I probably would have sent it to the whole committee. But you can get a paper copy. It's a lot easier.
Well, sometimes if you save it as a PDF, then it'll come through small.
I tried, and I just had such a hard time with it. And I've done that before. Tatiana?
I can send it out.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd say that. Okay. And so the budget, as far as sending it, it is a timeline. What's the date on that then, Casey?
I believe it's September 24th.
September 24th. So
I don't think your report has to go then. I'll double check. It's usually later in October, but just the numbers on the 24th.
Yeah, that was last year. I was just going to say that last year the budget numbers were earlier than the whole report, which is so that's September 20th. That's good because I got nervous. I can go in. So do we normally circulate the numbers? We can circulate that, right? There's no problem doing that. The budget. Let's Lori.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I can send it.
Okay, great. All right. So that's it. So we're gonna stop. Motion to adjourn. Lori, seconder, Judy, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. That was a lot of work. Good job, everybody.